Times when I feel like all this could be real, like a stone deep inside. I feel conceit, I feel pride. The mistake I often make is how serious I take all my work and myself, when I know full well that really what you've done, what you've got doesn't mean an awful lot. 'Cause honest, I am irrelevant. I am irrelevant.
Telephones. That ain't how phones work. That's a special kind of phone.
Hello? Yes, this is the Boileroom. Yes, no, it is. This is Independent Venue Week. Yes, it is. Yes, you're in the right place. Great. Well, thanks so much for... Yeah, no, I will. No, I'll say hi to Jamie for you. Yeah, and space. Great. Yeah, thanks very much then. All right, see ya. Bye.
Round of applause for Dominique.
You did really
wow.
Super cool.
Good evening and welcome to In Conversation with IVW. Tonight, I'm really lucky to be joined by my good friend, Jamie Lenman. Hi, Jamie. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thanks very much. We are good friends. That's nice. I feel glad you put that in there.
And also, an even better friend of mine.
I'd like to.
It's debatable.
More than friends.
Come on now.
Space. So
By now, maybe.
welcome. Tonight we're going to have a chat about the work that you guys have done together, the 3 albums that you've worked on. We're going to play some music. We're going to have a listen to some of the songs. And we're generally going to just have a really good time, I think.
A relaxamo time.
Yeah.
We've already said all the good stuff before the live stream started. Dom was cross with us earlier for saying too many interesting things before it went live. Sorry. I'm just going to stare at the wall now from the next hour.
Yeah.
So,
I think we've been trumped right at the beginning.
We have been
Yeah.
thoroughly trumped.
I want to say thank you to the Chocolars as well. That
Oh my God, it was amazing.
Yeah.
awesome rendition.
It's way better than when I do it. I'm embarrassed, shamed even.
Well, maybe we should, at some point during the proceedings, play the original bit of that.
I think that would be an insult to the Chocolalas. I wouldn't do that to them.
So, I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take you guys back.
Yes.
Tell me, what year is it when you decided that you wanted to put out a second solo album? Where were you? What was going on? And why did you think, right, I'm going to start making some music again and I want to find a producer? And yeah, tell me the process.
Well, it was a sort of a gradual thing. I didn't. My sort of motto when I was doing my first solo album, Muscle Memory, was that I didn't have a plan and I didn't know what was going on and what the follow-up was going to be. Because the first thing anyone asks when you bring out a record is, when's the next one? And I didn't know. And so what I realised during that period was that you need a plan. Having a plan is quite good, and having a manager and having a team is quite good. I sort of blasé thought, hey, I could do this myself. And that's why it took another 4 years before I put another record together. I got to the end of the Muscle Memory campaign and sort of reached a bit of a crossroads and thought, well, I could do another one or I could not, and I don't really care. I didn't really care whether I carried on or not.
Yeah.
And I thought if I was... I knew that if I was going to do another one, because I could quite have happily, I had a happy job as a graphic designer in London. I was quite happy doing that, and actually Muscle Memory had been quite stressful. So I needed a good reason to do another one, and one of the good reasons would have been to reach more people. I felt like Muscle Memory had been well received, but I wanted to work with a different label, with a different reach, different approach, and I wanted to find a team of managers and agents and reach more people. You know, if it's worth doing right.
And was there anything with regards to your musically where you were at, say, okay, so we know where your head's at, but musically were you kind of like, did you have an idea of what kind of album that you wanted to make? You know, did the kind of album that this became, we've got a copy of it right here, first one, here we go. Wow. I want to kind of get an idea of musically where you were with it before you started making it, and then obviously introduce U-Space into the conversation, because I guess from your point of view, you would have known Jamie as a friend, but known him formerly as the front person from Reuben as well, so you really well know that catalogue really well. And
Actually,
Did you though? I don't think you were that familiar with Reuben.
No, because I don't know. I didn't really get... Reuben didn't reach Aberdeen, maybe.
You're joking, but we were massive in Aberdeen. Aberdeen was our town.
Maybe he didn't reach Fingen.
Okay, maybe not Fingen, but the Kef and the Lava.
Yeah,
seriously, before we had our first album out, we got bigger audiences in Aberdeen than we did in Aldershot. But yeah, I think that's quite good, because I got the feeling that although we were friends all throughout Reuben, we knew each other.
Yeah.
That you weren't really that. Not that you weren't invested, it just wasn't on your radar, and that's true of quite a lot of people.
Well, actually, it became on my radar because it was around about the same time me and Dom first met and started courting.
I remember.
And you were doing the Rockbot illustration for the magazine Dom was publishing.
For Spill, yeah.
And you were also on the cover of Spill as well. So I first heard Reuben then when we first met.
Yeah, our three lives dovetail in quite bizarre ways. I'd known Dom for years. I mean, Dom is the missing. It's great that you're here in between us at a safe distance, because you have always been here in between us at a safe distance. You're the connecting. She's the keystone, because I met Dom when we were working at a children's charity looking after disadvantaged kids in. Was it Weyburn or Farnham?
Waverley, yeah.
Waverley, that's right. So we knew each other further than that, and then we just sort of carried on knowing each other. You did a radio show with Spill for a while, and then I started doing the comic. And so I was always hanging out with Dom at bits and bobs, and then when she started seeing Space, I got to know Space through Dom. So really that's the key to our relationship. But as I say, yeah, I think it was quite good that you weren't... I mean, even if you were aware of Reuben, you weren't tied into it, and you didn't see me. You saw me as... Jamie, your buddy, more than Jamie from Reuben, which is important.
Yeah.
And there's a few
always
other
see
people
like that.
Well, I think that's maybe why you're such a good producer.
so let me move you on a little bit to, you want to make an album.
I think it actually came because we used to get together at in the middle of the night and listen to records and watch YouTube videos of bands people haven't really heard of before.
Yeah.
And do and then watch marathon movie sessions.
Yeah.
And then we would chat late into the night. And that's how I think we started talking about Devolver first, wasn't it? And you were like, I'm kind of toying with the idea. And you gave me about 100 demos. And
Did I give you the 100 demos first off?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an imposition.
Yeah. So we talked about it for a good while. And then you gave me the 100 demos. And then we started well, I basically whittled it down and said, I reckon this is your record.
Well, I think that did happen. I think we might have made Mississippi and Fast Car. No, Mississippi and I Don't Know Anything before that, because
No, that was after.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah, and then we were like, well, let's pick a couple. You were like, which ones?
That's right.
And I said Mississippi, and you were like, what?
No, everyone picked Mississippi, and I was like, "You were wrong about this." But at that stage, I didn't know it was a record. Maybe you knew it was a record, but I didn't. I thought we were just making some demos of some tracks to play to people and see what happened, which is sort of how you make a record, you know. But we made Devolver in lots of little bits, and the first 3 tracks, I think we did Mississippi, I think it was Fast Car, and
Fast
I Don't Know
Car, yeah.
Anything. They were
Fast
sort of
Car.
bundle of demos. Fast Car.
Yeah.
Yeah, give
Yeah,
me Fast
Fast
Car,
Car.
come on. And at that point, I didn't know if it was an album. And at that point, I still could have taken it or left it. And it was only when, particularly Mississippi, sparked lots of people's interests, namely my managers, who I then signed with, started working with, and then later Big Scary Monsters, the label, that I then thought, oh, right, okay, great, we're making a record. So at the start, it was very tentative and and it wasn't like you said, oh, let's make an album. I remember we were at that barbecue with Stu, and there was that big paella.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
remember?
That was my birthday.
That was
your
Tom's birthday,
birthday.
yeah.
And I was moaning about I didn't know what to do, and you were like, let's just make some demos. Let's just see what happens, see what it sounds like, because we'd never worked together before, and I hadn't
no.
really considered working
I
with
remember us making them so that we could raise the funds to make the rest of the record. That's what I remember.
So I might pause you there because you talked a little bit about Mississippi. So I
Yeah.
reckon, should I have a little listen to
No,
a
that's
little
good
bit?
idea. That's a
Yeah,
good
that's
idea.
good
That
idea.
This
was
seems
what
to be the
started
one that prompted.
Is this how 2 different realities are made? Are we living in parallel?
Dust to dust. If the women don't get you, the whiskey must.
Actually, really enjoying that. I didn't want to tone it
I
down.
enjoyed it. It's,
Yeah.
it's fucking huge, and full credit to Dan Cav as well, who played the drums on the whole record. But really, you know, I'd never had a sound like that before. Those drums are enormous, and Space knew exactly what I wanted when I said I want the drums to eat the world. And that was, I'd never done anything that sounded like that before, and that was our first demo. You know, this mix is pretty unchanged from the demo. So this is the first thing we had right out of the box, and listen to it now, I'm not surprised it grabbed people's attention and start the whole ball rolling. And I have to thank Space for maybe all of that. You know, I know I wrote the song, but really in recognizing that it was the song to go with and then making it sound that huge, that's all Space. You know, I'd give Space most of the credit for these 3 records.
No, come
Not
on.
sure what I'm going to do without him. But yeah, it's great to hear that. It's great to hear that because it was a watershed moment for my career, and it spun off into these 3 albums we made that I really love, and a very productive period. Yeah.
So, Space, I want to ask you about how you approached specifically this record with Jamie. You mentioned earlier to me about a reference that kind of, did you have a vision of how musically you wanted this record to sound?
Well, we talked at length, I think, about what you want your career to be, And so in my mind, I had this mantra of heavy Beck.
Heavy
right?
Beck was what we talked about a lot, yeah.
So someone that can be unexpected, people will expect the unexpected, but will also always have their own voice throughout it. And so I think this record was about making a really unifying all of your different kind of aspects, all your different, the things that make you Jamie, you know, all of the different things, the heavy and the mellow and the blunt and kind of honesty of it as well. And then also we talked about taking it sonically away from just being a band sound as well.
Sure, that was what I was very interested in pushing the electronic elements, which I knew that Space did very well, and obviously his group Never Not Nothing is very electronics focused, and he's got all the twiddly doodlies, which is very exciting for me. And I'd always try, in previous records, I tried to bring those elements to the fore, and even on the Reuben records, even on as far back as like, in fact, the first EP for Reuben, we tried to put like extra drum bits in and computer sounds, and by the second full length, I was taking in some program bits, but they always got buried in the mix. We were never confident enough, either ourselves nor the people we were making the records with, to really push that. But with Space, that was the first time I managed to get them, you know, in the forefront, and I felt confident about it, and I knew that he was confident about it. And I think that's what you hear on that record is a lot of electronic elements, which I was really, really excited about, and still sound great to me.
Yeah, I think the freedom we got was saying this doesn't have to sound like three people in one room, wasn't it? We could, so the drum sound on that meant we could then blow it up into kind of ridiculous proportions and kind of really maximize every element.
We nearly called it maximalism. Do you remember?
Yeah, nearly.
But I think about 20 people have called their records. Oh, mind you, there must be people with a record called Devolver. I only called it Devolver so I could be next to the revolver in the racks in HMV, but that's not even how it works. They don't just put your record in the Beatles section because you've got a similar title. I think maximalism would have been good. You don't think maximalism would have been good?
I prefer Devolver. I like Devolver.
Devolver is better. Yeah.
So I'm going to move you on to side 2 of that
sure.
record.
Yeah.
What else? Okay, skipping on.
To side 2 of that record. Tracks on that include Helena Fast Car, Don't Know Anything, Bones, All of England is a City, and Devolver. So we've already heard the Chocolat's cover of Devolver. Tell me a little.
You're skipping by Comfort Animal as well.
Don't skip by
talking of Comfort Animal,
a missing member of the family. This ain't the Comfort Animal.
That's Comfort Animal part the.
This is Discomfort Animal. She sit on my feet. Do you remember when she was on my stomach and I thought I was going to die?
Yeah. She's a brick.
She went through a weighty period, and we were watching telly, and I literally thought my spine was collapsing because this little dark matter was sitting on me. I love you, but you're not a comfortable animal. You're the opposite.
So tell us about Comfort Animal then.
Well, the Comfort Animal, there's many levels to it. We decided, like, Space is my comfort animal. He makes me feel comfy and relaxed, and that's the sort of the job of a producer. I suppose Comfort Animal is another name for a producer in many ways, but also when we were making the record, Space had his own comfort animal. Vibes come in and help out with the engineering.
He's definitely my comfort
Absolutely.
animal. Yeah.
I
Shout
had
out to Vibes.
A whole thing about comfort animals, but also Willow, who is the missing member of the family, is Dom and Space's cat that they'd had for years before. Did you have Willow before you had Space?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember the first time I met Willow. Was in many ways more important the first time I met Space. Just a wonderful, wonderful being who was just always there and just had such a vibe, and was there when we were recording certainly the first half of Devolver, and made her presence very felt. It's weird to bang on about a cat, but you know, these people are members of your family, and they are people.
She passed away during the making.
She passed away during the making of the record. She was ever so sick. She had a snotty nose, poor thing.
Oh.
And then and I just thought when we made Comfort Animal, because Comfort Animal was a sort of a last-minute thing in the studio, we had a bit of spare time, and I had a vague idea for where Body Poppin' could have gone, and we whacked it down, and it just sounded like Comfort Animal. It just had to be Comfort Animal, and I named it that because of the many Comfort Animals in the process. But it's and the record is dedicated to Willow, who was the original Comfort Animal. So that's how that came about. I love Comfort Animal.
I think it might be a good. Let's have a little listen,
Let's
shall we?
have a listen,
Come on,
yeah. It also
let's do this. I think especially
the theme of the record segued into the second half.
Yeah,
doesn't
it was. I've been listening to a lot of Genesis records that sort of repeated themselves, and I was keen to do that. So yeah, let's have a listen.
I think during these times as well, these pandemic times, a bit of comfort. I think everyone needs a little bit, don't they?
Sure.
Let's hope I got it on the right one. Nearly. Let's have another one. Okay. Let's go again.
Nearly. Hey, close enough.
Yeah. It's like I'm not a DJ, isn't it?
It's a very
this
thin
Comfort Animal was
slither.
literally just about.
Yeah,
to
you just
start.
needed,
Yeah. There you go.
Here we go.
The smallest speck of light in an ocean of night. The smallest speck of light in an ocean of night.
That's really lovely. That's mostly Space. That's Space doing the lovely piano voicing and also playing the sort of feedback solo.
Oh, the Gretsch. I didn't
On the
bring her.
Gretsch.
Yeah.
So until I start singing, and actually we only added the vocals at the very last minute, that's a whole... There's none of me on that. That's all just Space making it sound excellent for me. Yeah, I really love that. I'm really glad we got that on there to have a bit of space,
Yeah.
you know, in the middle of the record and to reinforce the theme that would then come back at the end. I think it's key to make it as strong.
Really ties the record together.
Mm.
Yeah. I hadn't listened to it for so long, and I listened to it fresh in the car, and that was just a really nice moment remembering. It was nice to have that little lo-fi break in the middle of the record as well.
It is
where
lo-fi.
Just, well, kind of lo-fi.
Well, I love the roomy sound on the drums. Yeah. We hadn't done anything else on the record that had that sort of roomy sound. Oh,
Hang
on a minute.
Hello.
Hello? Yes, yeah, I can ask him. Okay, Devolver sounds so heavy and has such a full sound. How do you recreate that live?
Oh.
And can I just get your name? Pete. Okay, great. Thanks, Pete. Yep, we'll do our best. Thank you, mate.
Well, Pete, it's funny you should mention that because obviously Devolver coincided with a period when I slimmed my band right down to only 2 people. And I just, I've always had a big, thick, chunky guitar sound, which is what you hear in the record anyway. And then it was actually Space that convinced me to get hold of the Submarine here, which you can see on my guitar, which creates the bass frequencies. I was quite into 2 pieces at the time, and I was convinced I could create a big sound with just a guitar and some drums. But I thought it might be good to thicken that guitar up somehow. And I didn't actually imagine I'd end up using it how I use it, which is as a bass guitar. I just sort of thought vaguely it might give it a thicker sound. But it works so well that I've ended up playing bass parts on it, and if I mute the guitar, I can play the bass part. I mean, if you listen to something like Mississippi, there's 6 or 7 guitar tracks on that, plus there's a synth doing it. There's so many tracks, so I could never hope to recreate any record I've ever made. Even early ones with the band, there was always at least 2 guitars on those, left, right, and maybe one down the middle. So in order even to recreate the Reuben Records live, we'd have had to bring in 2 more players. So the answer is I can't recreate it, but also the answer is that I wouldn't want to, because I think records and live are very separate, and I think that's key to their appeal for me. So while I might try and hint at it, the fun for me and the adventure for me is trying to work out ways in which I can reinterpret the recorded material into a live setting with perhaps a limited number of players. That to me is a delicious puzzle to try and solve. So the answer is I don't really.
So would you guys like to talk any more about Devolver? Anything else that you feel like,
Well, I think
you
we
need to
probably
scratch.
need to move on to
Yeah, I'm going to move on to shuffle
Souffle,
right
don't
now.
we? Let's with the
Yeah.
where the
So
party
let's do that.
starts.
So, am I right in thinking you came up with the idea of shuffle with regards to an iPod shuffling through tracks? That's what I have in front of me.
So embarrassing. I was like, hey, they got this new thing called iPods here, and you can listen to all music on this thing called Shuffle. It's gonna change the world. Let's do a concept record. Oh dear.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
sort of. Yeah.
No, I think that's a legit inspiration. So
It was kind of like that.
so you tell me then.
He had to, well, initially he was like, Space, hey, I want to make a covers record. And I was like, oh, maybe you should write some new songs, Jim. And you were like, no. And
No,
then,
I did try. I abandoned Shuffle for 3 whole months after you gave me a strong talking to at my house. And I could not find a single supporter for this project. And yours was the final nail in the coffin. Because everyone else would be like, don't do it. I was like, fuck you. That's basically like, don't do it. And I was like, oh, God.
I didn't say don't do it.
No, you didn't. That's true.
I definitely didn't say don't do it. And then when we talked about the record more, when you were like, look, these are the songs this is what I want to do. It isn't really like a straight up covers record. It's much more than that. And then I said, because it was so disparate, we need something to pull this together as a record. We need something to make it under, because the way I understood it was like, what I loved about it is it was so undiscriminatory. You're like, I love all of this stuff. It's completely different. People would look at me and they wouldn't think that I love this stuff, but this is what I truly love, and I want to write a love letter to this music, and I want to make it how I hear it in my head.
You should have written the fucking press release. This is beautiful
maybe.
stuff.
Well, this is what we talked about.
Sure.
And I was like, maybe you should think about how it's going to tie together. How are you going to represent that on the record?
You're right. It was you. No, and I hadn't forgotten, but it's good for you to say it, because I might not have come up. The details of how it became Shuffle instead of just a covers record are quite important. And that's another good key for people to understand in the role of what a producer does, and why Space is so good, in that he thinks about the themes and he thinks about why we're doing it. And all I knew was that I needed to do it, whereas Space was thinking about why and how do we make this understandable to people. Because before we had those conversations, many conversations, I wanted to call it Distortions or something, and it didn't have a theme, and it just would have zipped about and made literally no sense. And I couldn't see that, because in my brain there's just, my 12 favourite songs. But Space, who exists outside of my brain, was able to say, that's complete madness. You're going to have to explain it somehow to people in a form that they'll understand. And so that's when, maybe it's like shuffling through iPod, or like maybe like a Spotify playlist or something. That idea came up, and then we just ran with it, and then the artwork came from that, and I was like, yeah, and all the symbols can shuffle, and that provided us with a concept. It was crucial, absolutely crucial. And the fact that the record was received as well as it was, critically, it is completely dependent on that. So thanks, above the many thanks for everything else you've done for me, like for giving me the mannequin to hang that idea on. Well, that's a bad example, but you really pulled it together in a way that it could have been a fucking disaster, couldn't it?
Space, I'm going to ask you to choose a track from this album that you'd like to have a little slither of, and I'll cue that up while you guys keep talking.
Oh, okay.
Would you like to have a look?
Oh, this.
Space, by the way, is holding the deluxe version of
The
Shuffle.
deluxe edition.
Available?
Without
Available
the
for
inlay,
Big
though.
Scary Monsters. It has a die-cut inlay.
Yeah.
They're taking the inlay out. It's super
Here we
cool. And you
go.
get all kinds of extra shit.
I mean, I think we should start at the very beginning, because when you said you want to cover Tomorrow Never Knows by the Beatles,
you were terrified.
I
I remember
was
the fear in
terrified.
your eyes.
It's like one of my favorite things ever.
It is a no-go. And we did 2 as well, but let's start with the first one, yeah.
Yeah, so that was just is such a brave way to start a covers record, and
suppose it is
I
brave.
really enjoyed it. And also, we did a little bit of tying in later parts of the record again, right in the first song.
Yeah, I heard it the other day. I've heard the single version so much, which is shorter. Then I heard the album version, and I'm so pleased we got those bits of dialogue in the freak out.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear
Also, it took me an age to get the Moog to do that slow ramp
God,
up at the beginning.
Anyway, you'd think it would be simple. I was like, just do it.
It
And
was
like,
supposed to be
"Wait!"
super simple.
I was just there I saw some photos the other day. In fact, I sent them for this of me just on the sofa. Like that, and you were like, oh,
I got it.
which is
I
what
got it.
making a record looks like. Let's have a listen.
Let's have a listen then.
I think it starts with vibes. The drums, the first drums you hear are vibes.
Yeah, it is.
That sound loud.
No.
Oh,
No. No. Shuffle, you beauty. Fucking yes.
I remember.
Keep that playing.
Yeah, keep it playing. Oh, here's a question.
Oh,
Let's
here
have
we
a
go.
question.
We'll definitely get it right once.
Oh,
Nearly. Hi. Oh, hi, Liz. Liz from Guildford. Yep. Yeah, I could definitely ask him. How do you choose the songs to cover for Shuffle? Were you a big Popeye fan as a kid? That's Liz in Guildford wants to know.
Who wasn't a big Popeye fan? I mean, the answer is that I
Just hung
didn't.
up on her. Sorry.
You say rude.
Sorry, Liz.
Fuck off. I didn't choose them. I got to a point where I couldn't not, if that makes any sense. And I mean, that goes back to what we were saying earlier, that several people tried to dissuade me from making the records. And I did try and write another originals, but it just wasn't where my head was at. And I got to the point where I couldn't see anything apart from these songs. I'd wanted to sing them in some cases since I was 9 or 10. And I got to the point at 32 or whatever I was where I just needed to get them out. So I sort of didn't choose them. They were all songs that I'd known for varying lengths of time that I had to do my versions of. It was just dying to get out. There were a few that didn't make it on, mainly ones that, you know, I felt I couldn't do anything particularly interesting with, that would have been more of a straight cover. I mean, all the covers on Shuffle range from fairly straight covers to like absolute pick apart and put back together. There was some sort of duller takes of just songs that I really liked, and I realised actually I don't really want to do anything with these songs. I just want to sing them, so I might as well just do that in my bedroom. A bit pointless for a covers record. But Yeah, I think there was one point when we discussed, we were trying to work out how we were going to fit it all into the schedule, because there's a lot of ground to cover. And on a record like this, every song is completely different. So usually when you make a record, you make 10 or 12 songs. They all sound vaguely similar, and it's more or less the same mix with tweaks throughout. Whereas this record, it is a new mix every track, which is terrifying. And we did discuss briefly not doing the spoken word ones, or cutting a couple. And although I'm familiar with the concept of compromising on any project to make things meet a certain budget or time frame, I was really bummed out about losing the spoken word ones, because I thought they would really elevate it, and I think they do. So when we managed to build them back into the project, I was elated, and I think the results speak for themselves. But yeah, they were all I just collected them as I'd grown up through my musical life. They'd stuck to me like limpets, like Love Song for a Vampire and the Wolverine theme music, from the game I got when I was 12. I just was carrying them around, and it was only a matter of time before they bubbled over and came out. So I didn't really choose them, if that's a really pretentious way of not answering your question.
That was kind of the moment we really decided to jump in on it, when you went, I've wanted to do this record since I was 9. Please, can we do this record? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And
I think because usually there was a lot of pushback against the covers record, and covers records are still sort of looked down on. They tend to be what you do in between proper albums when you haven't had enough time to write your own material. They tend to be a bit of a rush job, and they can be a cash grab. If they're done right, they can be beautiful, as you say, love letters.
Yeah, there's something to be said about the eclecticism of what is on the record.
Yeah, that too.
It's so many different art forms. There's theatre, there's film, there's game music, which doesn't often get a look in, and there's bands that probably no one had heard much of, that many people, that might then get listened to a bit more after the versions you did as well.
That's always the hope.
Yeah. There's I thought I really liked the breadth of what you were choosing as well. And it wasn't all just
it wasn't all just songs or like LOL 80s classics. I hate that kind of bullshit.
Yeah. I was going to ask how you approached it sort of stylistically. Did you sit down and jam songs out? Did you kind of go, right, I want this cover to sound like this? Did you just get the synths out, or did you get what did that look like?
I remember a session where I had to sing you with my mouth every song.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have demos for any of them. And you were like, what are we doing? I think it might even be like day one in the studio. You're like, what are we doing? And I was like, right. And so just vocally, I was like, this song's like, and then after about 40 minutes of that, you were like, cool, okay, let's get started. But that was important because there was no reference.
I think there's something to be said for the really simple vocalization of how you want a song to sound. That I like working like that.
Yeah.
Because you can get so much from someone when they make noises with their mouth.
I had a buddy.
I understand what you're doing.
If you're watching Ben Woodward, I had a buddy when I was growing up, and he would tell me about all these excellent new bands. I'd be like, oh, what do they sound like? And he'd go, they sound like this. And his versions of what this new band sounded like were always way better than the actual band. And so when he played me the actual record, it was a huge letdown. And I wish I had recordings of his versions of Dillinger, all these bands that were never quite as good. I still don't really like Dillinger because they're not as good as Ben's impression of how they would sound. Everyone else loves them, but I heard Ben's version first. So there is a lot to be said for that, yeah.
We switched it up a bit on this record, didn't we? We decided we'd work on a track at a time, and we would finish that track before moving on, pretty much, because they were so sonically different.
I remember that was the idea, and that is what we did on King of Clubs. I'm not sure we stuck to that. I think it ended up smearing across quite a few tracks.
Might have smeared a bit. Yeah, probably smeared a bit, but I seem to remember that we had to get the world of that song in place before moving on. It wasn't like we could, let's track all the guitars and then move on.
I think by the time we got to the guitars, by the time we got to my bits, because we had Dan Cavin first do all the drums from a time issue. And then after that, I think you're probably right. We did take it, and then when it came to mixing, we would hop about a bit. But it was certainly more. Each track did have its own world, as opposed to Devolver, which shared a lot more themes. Yeah,
I think we should segue into album or catchphrases.
Oh yes,
Right.
all aboard.
Yeah. Oh, but okay. All aboard is a classic. I do use it in pretty much every session I do before we do a take. All aboard!
All aboard! All aboard! And you can hear that on.
Sorry, Beth.
It's all right.
That's really wrecked your ears over
You
there.
can hear that on Tomorrow Never Knows. Just before the guitars come in, you go, all aboard! All aboard! That's P-Bass coming through my guitar pickup saying, all aboard the vibe train.
Yeah.
The vibe train is leaving imminently.
It's
all
always
aboard if
leaving.
you want to come along for the vibe.
You
All
gotta
aboard the
hop
vibe
on.
train.
You got to hop on.
Yeah.
But by this time, we were on to album 2 catchphrase, which is no tracks, no slacks.
No tracks, no slacks.
Yeah.
Was
Do you-
that Shuffle?
I
Was
think
that the
was
summer
Shuffle.
record?
Yeah, it was.
Did we make Shuffle in the summer and we made
Yeah.
King of Clubs in the winter?
Mhm.
No slacks, no tracks. It was so hot. Me and Space were in like our actual kecks,
Yeah.
just
In our pants.
sweating away on that record. And it was, and that's where No Slacks, No Tracks came in. Even though we didn't have any slacks and we did have lots of tracks.
Yeah.
I think the idea was that if anyone else had the temerity to enter the space station with no trousers on, they would be turfed out. But for the privilege
Yeah.
too, that was all
We
right.
should have changed it to no slacks.
No
Tracks.
slacks, bare tracks. No
Yeah.
slacks, bare tracks.
Yeah, yeah.
But no slacks, no tracks. That was true. And I actually made you a nice little art print for
Yes,
Christmas
you did.
that year
Yeah.
of the space station with the motto "No slacks, no tracks." That's one of my favorite things about making a record is the little catchphrases that you build up afterwards and things that don't make sense outside of that
Outside.
little bubble of time. We
Yeah.
did have the vibe train on Devolver, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, it goes all the way
It goes all the way
Yeah,
through.
all the way
But
through.
yeah, no slacks, no tracks for Shuffle.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
So I'm going to move you on now. It's to the next album.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Because I know you guys could just keep chatting and keep chatting.
There's a lot of chat.
Sorry.
Love it. No,
Stacks
I
of
love
chat.
it. Your most recent album with Space, which was released last year in September, if I'm right. Hang on a
Yes.
minute. Let me just get it.
King of Clubs.
King of Clubs. Tell me a little bit about King of Clubs.
Well, I always said that if Shuffle was our reward for Devolver, then King of Clubs was our punishment for Shuffle. Right? Because we'd made this great record, Devolver, and everyone was really happy with how it went. and then when it came to Shuffle, they just said, just do what you want. Great. Have a fantastic time. And we just went absolutely nuts and just did whatever we wanted. We got Paul McGann in and we played like the
Yes.
bouzouki or whatever.
Oh my God, how sick was that?
It was completely insane. Shuffle was like a feast in every sense of the word. And then obviously didn't sell quite as well as Devolver. It was a challenging record. So things got bumped back down to earth a bit. It was time after the excess and the frivolity, should we say, of Shuffle. All these records are a reaction to each other. King of Clubs is a reaction to Shuffle, to the excess and the breadth of Shuffle. So when it came to make King of Clubs, there was very little joy on there, and it focused on negative emotions, and it was stripped, and it was dark, and it was a lot narrower. And in fact, I think King of Clubs is the most. Up until then, I would have said Devolver was my most uniform record, even though it goes in lots of places. But I think actually King of Clubs has pipped it to be the most consolidated, and I don't mean narrow in a bad way. I just think it has a very unified vision, and it packs a single punch. All of the tracks are pulling in the same, even though there is breadth within them, they're all pulling in the same direction. And I think that was a reaction to what we'd done on Shuffle. Space?
Oh.
Hello. Hello.
We'll never know.
Hello. Okay. Yeah. Gosh, calling from Toronto. Gabriel.
Trono.
Hey. Yeah. So the question is, recording question, strong thoughts, feelings on tape versus digital. So I guess over to you first, Space. If you do want to ask a question, please do pop it in the chat, as you are doing, obviously. But yeah, so over to you. strong thoughts on tape versus digital, please?
Do I have strong thoughts? It depends on your budget and time. I mean, tape sounds great. It also depends on what kind of record you're making as well. But I'm by no means a analog digital snob. I think it's all, excuse my French, fucking great. And it just depends on what you're trying to make. And it's part of your palette. So, to be honest, all of this was done straight to digital. There's no tape involved at all. And I don't think it makes a better or worse record. I think people get hung up on that kind of stuff. If it's a good record, it's a good record. Doesn't matter what format it went down to. And that can be a color of the record, but tape is expensive and very limiting depending on what kind of record you're making, though it is nice to work with.
If you want to make a limited record, and limited again does not have to be used in a negative way. If you are setting yourself strictures and you're saying, right, we're not going to overdub, we're not going to auto-tune, we're not going to this, that, and the other, then yeah, tape can be part of, in the same way that, you know, dogma filmmaking is, you know, a set of rules invented.
Let me take you back to the Beatles, though. They use tape in very creative ways, and I think some of my favorite parts about the Beatles recordings are when they splice 2 tracks together, or 2 takes, or maybe even 3 or 4 takes together, but the tuning, they hadn't tuned up in between takes, and they would have to speed up or slow down the tape in order to match the tuning. And
That's
so you
true.
get this kind of, not a lot of people will recognize it, this kind of otherworldly quality, because it's not the speed it was. But you have these kind of random anomalies that you wouldn't get with ones and zeros, which is interesting.
But I mean, you're right in that the Beatles and many others, well, the Beatles pioneered it with George Martin, were able to make a virtue out of those limitations. I think they were still limitations, and I'm fairly sure that if the Beatles had digital technology at their disposal, they wouldn't have bothered fucking around splicing no tapes.
No.
But you're right, you can get very creative within those limits, but they are limits. And for me, that's certainly not what I wanted on these 3 records. And to be honest, you know, I've worked on tape and I found it frustrating. You know, I'm not, and I've never been a one-take wonder. I mean, I get close, but, you know, it is time. If I had time to sing the takes again and again and again, great. But you don't. You got other stuff to do.
It's not a magic fix-all as well. You can make tape sound crap as well, and there are tape machines out there that won't sound amazing.
I've done some bad sounding records on tape for sure. Yeah, for real.
But I do love tape.
I hate tape.
Manipulate it and it speeds up or warbles or like.
You can get some good stuff.
Yeah.
Should you have a little taster?
Let's have a
Have a little. What would you like? What do you fancy?
Kill Me. Kill Me's the best one.
Kill Me.
Try not.
This is the duet between Space and myself.
It's beautiful.
Carry on
man.
talking. That's between yourselves.
Do you want to talk about what this song's about?
The song is about when you meet someone who's so attractive you wish they would kill you. You want them to kill you because your life has reached a perfect end point and there's no point continuing. And if the last thing you see is their face, that's great.
I don't care.
Thing is, you just don't want to stop playing.
It's such a,
I think,
it's such a vibe.
I think we should, like, at some point in the future, just come in and just play records together.
Absolutely. Well, I want to put on these records we just got today. That song really, for me, is the soul of the record. That song typifies the concept of nicety that we came up to mean, like the perfect mix of nice and nasty.
Nicety Boys.
The Nicety Boys, you're looking at the Nicety Boys, and particularly having Space's vocals on that track. With it, you can hear he's the deeper voice. I think a lot of people think it's me, but it's Space. And I just knew, and I think we talked about briefly that I might, after Shuffle, I thought it might be interesting to work with a different producer, because I'm very keen on, like, quitting while the going's good. I have a habit of wearing people out, and I didn't ever want to get to the point where I'd, like, worn Space out, or that we couldn't stand each other because we just spent too much time. So I was thinking about making King of Clubs, or whatever the next record ended up being, with someone else. And when I wrote Kill Me, I just knew that, like, Space was the only person who would really get it. And there's possibly even some tracks on that record that I could have, like, made with someone else, and I'm sure they would have been fine. But Kill Me could have been no one else. And then that sensibility bled out into the rest of the album. And I thank My Lucky Stars that we made it together. I think, and it's really, I love it, and it made it into a sort of trilogy. These records are sort of a trilogy. And there's all kinds of themes, if the first one is all about rhythms, the second one is all about structure, and the third one is all about texture. They're white and red and black, and it was just perfect. And King of Clubs really crowns the whole affair. And it at present is my favourite one, even though, objectively you might say that one of the other two might be the better record. But for me, King of Clubs, what we say, packs a very concise punch. I feel like I can hear more of Space's personality on King of Clubs than the other two, but I don't know. What do you reckon, Space?
I think we definitely had a language by that point where it just felt easy. Not easy, but like we were just flowing nicely. And I think what I hear when I listen to all of the records, which is all the time. No, when I listen back to the records this week, was just us having just hanging out, talking about the songs, and like exploring the sounds, and like having a really good time in the studio together, and drinking lots of tea. And like, it's nice for us personally to have that little snapshot of our lives that we can always kind of nip back to there by listening to this record in our kegs in the summer without
no
me.
Slacks, yeah. We're together on the hottest day.
But I think that last record just came together really effortlessly between the two of us. I think that
it was quite
yeah.
shotgun. We on King of Clubs, we genuinely did do a track a day from the ground up. Started with the drums, finished with the vocals, then we came back to mix. But by the end of that one day, we had a basic mix. The mixes were all just tweaking, so it was exhilarating. And it was, it was different to how we'd made Shuffle, which was different to how we'd made Devolver. So I felt like we've managed to make these three records without repeating ourselves. And I think we've broken new ground, maybe not in the sphere of music. I don't think there's anything on any of these albums that's particularly original. But it's original for me. It's stuff that I've never done before.
Stuff that I, forgot about.
Whoa, hang on a minute.
Here we go.
You're going to get reminded. It's always when you talk. Bloody hell.
Oh, that was pretty
That was
perfect.
good. I missed it. I'm sorry. It was good.
Hello, Boileroom. Yep, sure can. Oh, there's three people here who've got questions, actually. They must be all together in this watching together. Okay. So first question is, if you had no restrictions with money, time, or other pressures... Oh, hang on a minute. Let me get the phone in. Where would your next record go? That's from Ben.
Where would it go? Oh, I don't know. Well, funnily enough, I've actually got to the point where my next record, I'm working on a few projects, but the one I've got my eye on is actually quite stripped down and sounds much more like a drums, bass, guitar band. So oddly, that's not really going to take. I suppose if I applied the no money and no time rule to that, it might be nice to like rent a big house in the hills for a year and turn the main room with the view of the mountains into a recording studio, and maybe even do it on tape and not use any auto tune. But at the same time, I haven't really got enough patience for that. For me, recording has to be quite as spontaneous
Sounds like
as possible.
starting a cult of some kind.
Yeah, I might just start a cult with all the money
big.
and just make the record real cheap. I'm sorry, I haven't answered that question very well, because really I wouldn't know what to do with limitless time and budget. And I think in many ways that's the enemy of creativity. I think if I had limitless time and budget, I might never finish it. So actually, I'm the kind of person, I don't know about space, but I need deadlines and I need limitations to get something out. And that's been a part of why this period has been so creative and fecund for me, because I've had, in part, the label as well. Big Scary Monsters are always saying, what's next? And I'm like, oh shit, better make a record, because I need people to say, if you just leave me on a flat surface, I won't roll anywhere. You have to give me some kind of impetus to go, another record, and then I go, oh yeah. But until someone suggests it or says we need this by May, I'm quite happy playing with my action figures, which isn't to say that I don't love it, but I need limitations and I need deadlines. So sorry.
Well, that takes us quite nicely on to the next question, which is from the Head Scratcher. What's next for you both individually, and do you see yourselves working together again in the future? So I guess, would you work together again?
I'll let Space answer that, like first dates, isn't it?
It's like first dates,
Of course.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Definitely.
Okay, there you go. Question answered. And another one here is, okay, pass the phone over. Yeah, it's okay. I'll take another one. How long did it take to make each album? Did some develop quicker than others? And when you first started working together, did you always have the trilogy in mind? Okay, great, thanks.
I've done a lot of talking. Space, you can answer that one.
What's the question? That's why I'm called Space.
How long did they all take, I think, was the
right.
question.
Okay, yeah. I think Devolver took at least a year and a half off and on, didn't it?
Yes, it was spread out over a long period of time.
Yeah, it was spread out, and we would meet up and work on it sporadically. Shuffle, I think, was probably over the course of a year we were talking about it, and then we finally got to make it. I can't remember how long we spent making it.
I think it was a fairly concentrated blast of about a month being in the actual studio, but you're right.
It was a month in the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
but
then
the gestation and the thinking and the agonising and the pulling the bits together did take about a year, which is all important stuff.
Yeah, and then the mixing. So yeah, a couple of months actual graft.
And then King of Clubs, like we said, was very quick.
Yeah.
Probably a couple of weeks all told.
A couple of weeks in the studio, and then obviously pre-production and post-production. Probably about a month again, I'd say, all in all.
I mean, bear in mind, King of Clubs it's a mini album. It's quite a lot shorter than. So I imagine if you'd scaled it up to say 10 to 12 tracks, it might have taken almost as long as Shuffle. But there's no telling what we might have done. It's sort of a redundant question because there's no telling what we might have done if we'd had more tracks. I didn't want it to be. I'm fond of saying I didn't want King of Clubs to be a 12-track long player. I didn't even want it to be a mini album. It was supposed to be a single, then it was supposed to be an EP, and then just the tracks kept coming.
Yeah, we got carried away.
But I'm glad we did because. But I also, I wanted to make a mini album. When I thought, oh great, we could have a mini album in our hands, and I sort of pulled up a couple of tracks that I wasn't previously considering. I was excited about the concept of a mini album, and I like it as a short, sharp shock. And from the reaction it's had, I think people agree that there's no fat on it, even though there are some ponderous moments. King of Clubs is a 6-minute instrumental, and yet it's quite taut. And it's the shortest, snappiest, leanest record I've made, and it's currently my favourite. I'm not over King of Clubs. We made it over a year ago now, but I spent all of last year during the long first lockdown, approving mixes and making videos and putting together all the promotional material. I'm still sort of living and breathing King of Clubs, and in fact, until I get to tour it, I still will be in sort of King of Clubs mode. So I'm still sort of in it.
It's the world we're in at the moment. People are making the records and then not getting to tour it
Yeah.
at all. And so you don't conclude it until you... It's like
It
it's
does need
still
a
yours at
conclusion.
the moment until you take it out there and play it live and it becomes a living, breathing thing.
You're right.
It's not concluded. Yeah.
Well, and I think that might be a really good place for us to end our conversation this evening.
To be concluded.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, my legs are going numb here.
I told you about the discomfort animal.
Yeah, exactly. I want to thank everyone who sent in questions via the chat. This is our first In Conversation With this week for Independent Venue Week. I hope you enjoyed being our first guest. Thank you very much, Jamie, for
great.
joining us.
Thank you, Dominique.
And thank you very much, Space, and also Frida. We have lots of other In Conversations coming up this week, so do check out our website. I'd like to thank Yvonne Arnaud Theatre in Guildford as well for lending us some of these fine props that you see around you. So thank you to them. And I think we're going to have a track from the Chocolars to play us out. So
Lovely.
enjoy the rest of your evening. Support indie venues near you if you're not in Guildford. Support the one that's nearest to you. And enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you very much, guys. And we'll see you soon. Thanks, Chocolars. Take it away.
I've been falling fast, hiding from my reasoning. I've seen your eyes light up when we do the mundanest thing. You become the one I'd run to, reaching out, say you understand, but you're hoping it'll go away. Now we're giving it a name. Baby, that was your mistake. You don't know the old magic, and it'll get a hold on you. You've woken the old magic, and it'll get a hold on you. I just let it rain and hoped you heard the echoes. I let you let me in. So on the story goes, you become the one I'd run to. You don't understand, 'cause you're hoping it'll go away. Now we're giving it a name. Baby, it's just taking shape. You've woken the old magic, and it'll get a hold on you. You've woken the old magic, and it'll get a hold on you. And it'll split a heart in two. I'm drowning, but I'll wait. Ooh, let me on.